Alright gamers, well, let's talk about one game that I've been meaning to talk about in review for quite a while, and that is Sonic Mania. This one, obviously, I mentioned several times and even considered it one of the top best games of 2017, and well, obviously I got preoccupied and sidetracked and never got a chance to do a full review and thoughts on this game and what I think of it. Well, better late than never, right? So anyway, here goes. Obviously, this is a multi-console release, and as you guessed, I'm playing the version on Nintendo Switch. In fact, if you saw when I first got the Nintendo Switch, that this is one of the first games that I actually, digitally downloaded, because at the time, that was the only way to get this game. I'm well aware there's also a physical release of the game that includes extra DLC and extra characters and stuff that you can add on to the digital download as well, but let's not jump the gun here. I'm going to give my full thoughts and opinions on the game as I go along, so let's get to it, shall we? Okay, well, for most Sonic fans, you probably already know that the Sonic series has had its ups and downs over the years. Most of the classic games from the Sega Genesis days are the ones I'm most familiar with and enjoy to death. But along the line, Sega of course tried new experiments and tried to take the series in rather weird directions. This one, on the other hand, tries to cut the bullshit and show Sonic, well, what he's known for. And that's fine and everything, because that's pretty much what this game is. And while there's several modes of gameplay, I'm focusing mostly on the Mania mode, which is pretty much the main mode of gameplay, which gives you a selection of games that you can choose from that you saved, just like Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and just like that game, there's also one no-save option. As well as when you start a new game on the no-save or save feature, you pick between Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and or Sonic and Tails together. When you select a game and you want to reload it, well, it's only of that character that is already selected, so unfortunately you can't change. And like it or not, people, these are the three characters that I'm most familiar with. Now all these other ones they added on, especially as the series went along, like Shadow, who obviously got a video game, which is probably one of the worst ones I've ever played on the GameCube. Not to mention, of course, that was after Sega stopped making gaming consoles and eventually lent their name out to other gaming consoles like their previous rivals, Nintendo. So yeah, it was weird to see a Sega game on a Nintendo console the first time. Yeah, I'm pretty much still stuck in the past here when it comes to this franchise, and I refuse to move forward. Like, for example, I call Dr. Eggman Dr. Robotnik. I mean, yeah, obviously we all call on Mario Princess Peach, but I'm used to calling her Princess Toadstool. Yeah, not the greatest name, but that's the name I was well familiar with, and the same goes with Dr. Eggman. I always call him Dr. Robotnik, so say what you want to, people. He's the main villain in the game alongside his minions, and as you'd expect, the story is simple and straightforward. It's all about the gameplay in this one. Nothing too complicated. Basic, straightforward, fast side-scrolling action, blast processing as you remember it in the Sega Genesis days. Sonic obviously runs jumps, and thankfully actually can use power-ups. Like the Flame, which can help you be immune to flames and other various projectiles. The Electric Shield, which also helps reflect against enemy projectiles, well, obviously the electric ones. As well as make ring collecting a hell of a lot easier because they come right to you, considering this sucks them into you like a magnet. And then of course you got the Hydro Bouncy one, which makes Sonic bounce, deflects certain enemy projectiles as well, but most importantly, helps all the characters survive underwater, because just like the old school games, they can only survive a certain amount of time underwater before eventually you get that countdown and die from drowning. But with this thing, thankfully, none of that crap. Tails, of course, can fly for a brief period with his two tails, and Knuckles, of course, can glide and climb. To me, he was my favorite character, because with all those abilities, it made the game so much easier and just so much more fun. And he also got the return of the regular classic basic shield, as well as the temporary invincibility, and even the new addition of the special ring, which, after you get this, you lose your rings. They come in these big chunks, so this way, instead of getting one ring back for each, you get a whole bunch of them for every big one. And it mixes and matches levels from classic old school Sonic games, as well as brings in some new ones in the mix. Like, yep, that's Angel Island Head from Sonic 3. Well, okay, actually that's just a cutscene, which you get several of in between levels in this game. You start out on Green Hill Zone, the first level of the first game that started it all for this franchise. Yep, music and everything sounds just the way you remember it. enemies to kill, rings to collect, and random checkpoints in different parts of the levels, which give you special stages right out of Sonic & Knuckles and Sonic 3. Yeah, surprisingly not out of the big rings like in those games. But yep, the sphere game where you hit the blue ones and avoid the red ones. And if you succeed, you get a medallion, which these unlock things that you can access in the main menu, one of them being the Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Yep, remember that Tetris knockoff game? Not the last you're going to see it, of course, in this game. But yeah, as you could tell, I pretty much suck at these. Not to mention you need a certain amount of rings to be able to access these in these checkpoints. You do actually get the big rings, but they're in much more fixed and tougher to find locations in these levels. And what do they give you? Well, they give you another special stage that looks a lot like the one in Sonic CD. Yeah, where you have to jump and destroy the UFOs. The layout's pretty similar, but the objective is a little bit different. Instead of destroying the UFOs, you have to chase just one of them down by collecting these spheres and rings before the timer runs out. You collect rings to get more time, and spheres to help you chase the thing a lot faster and faster, which, well, is pretty much what it does, and if you manage to catch up to it, you get the Chaos Emerald. So, those are the only special or bonus stages, whatever you call them, that you get in this game. All the other ones that you remember in Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles are unfortunately not in here. And now getting back to the main stages, as I mentioned, you're in Green Hill Zone, 2 stages per world to be exact, and at the end of each you get a boss fight, so it's more like Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. And some of them are pretty interesting, I will say. Like the end of Green Hill Zone is that giant robotic thing that Dr. Robotnik operates right out of the last fight in Sonic 2, yep, when you're in space. And, well, it takes a little problem solving to figure out. Much easier to beat this guy with Knuckles, as you can tell. Then next is the Chemical Plant Zone right out of Sonic 2, which, unfortunately for any of you who are expecting a 3D version of the game, well, play Sonic Generations, obviously, because this is only 2D. Again, only 2 stages. It's like that, as I said, the whole way through, and most of the same aspects that you remember from Sonic 2 return in this, as well as some rather new ones that you notice along the way. Yeah, that's what they did throughout this entire game. Take old school levels and mix and matches them with some familiar elements, as well as throw in some new material and even some twists and turns added in there. Like in this one, you can go inside the tubes and go in some different directions. It even solidified the chemicals, giving you the ability to bounce into higher places. Sweet. And while the first stage boss fight is nothing really new, I mean, come on, we've seen this style of boss fight in lots of previous Sonic games already. But the second boss is taken right out of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Yeah, as I mentioned, ain't the last time you're going to see it in this game, and, well, this is what I'm talking about right here. Basically, you have to beat him at his own game, and that's how you beat the boss fight right there. Pretty cool, I will say. And the next one is Studiopolis, which I haven't seen in a previous Sonic game. That's because, well, this is one of the premier levels in the game, and all I have to say is it's pretty well designed, to say the least. It's designed like a studio, as the title of the zone says. Yep, it's pretty self-explanatory. You got some cool stuff like the killer electrifying microphones, a news van that sends you to multiple transporting satellites, a popcorn maker that makes popcorn before popping you right out. Yeah, I mean, doesn't that look delicious? Spinning film reels that you can ride on, and even a slot machine thing, which is more like a lottery drawing actually. Yeah, trust me, it's nothing like the one in the Casino Night stage in Sonic 2, but still pretty fun. The first boss fight is a bit tricky if you don't have the right accuracy with trying to run and dodge the missiles that he throws at you. Yeah, you're only supposed to hit one of the 3 that he throws at you. Best approach is to spin dash into the thing, because trying to jump into it's a little more trickier. But yeah, that's how you damage him, by hitting that one particular missile that he throws at you out of the 3. Do it again a couple more times and then he's done for. And make sure you try to keep as many rings as possible, because when you lose them all and you get hit, well, back to the beginning of the fight you go, and you don't want to lose all your lives either. It took me a few tries to get this one right, but it is beatable. And the next one's actually very creative, because, well, he chooses different types of weather patterns because, yeah, you're in a news weather station. He chooses sunny weather, then he shines these heat ray things on you which you gotta dodge. If he chooses rain and thunder, well, you gotta avoid the thunder and lightning that comes out of the clouds. Then wind, which you gotta be careful as long as you have enough rings not to hit the spikes and die. But basically you just gotta take him out. Simple as that. Then next is one that should seem pretty familiar for anybody who's played Sonic & Knuckles, the Flying Battery Zone. Again, has a lot of familiar aspects, but has some new ones as well. Like when you go outside, it almost reminds me of the Wing Fortress Zone on Sonic 2 a little bit. Yeah, you know, with those robotic rooster things. And the first boss fight is taken from the first part of the second act on Sonic & Knuckles in the Flying Battery Zone, except that garbage keeps piling up, making it a little bit easier, so it's a little more like Sonic 2 with the boss fight on Wing Fortress Zone. Yeah, you just gotta keep hitting that thing on top and boom, he's done for. Now the next part is a little bit more trickier. Basically you have to grab a hold of these things, knock them into the spikes. Just gotta be careful not to lose all your rings and die. But once you beat him, well, we're on to the next part, which is Press Garden Zone. Just like the title suggests, it's in a garden, and you start out by hang gliding. Wish that would last a little bit longer. I mean, don't you think that would be cool? Give the game a little more variety? But nope, that's just how the level starts. Make your way through the gardens, the blocks, and all these enemies and everything. Sort of reminds me of a mix between Sky Sanctuary Zone from Sonic & Knuckles and the Launch Base Zone from Sonic 3. And the first boss is this floating machine thing with two saw blades. Almost looks like that machine thing from Kirby's Adventure. Remember when you're underground? Except in this, you have to make it so one of the saw blades hits the unbreakable crate, temporarily disabling it, revealing its weak point, and that's where you keep hitting it. And then the next one is this ninja-like character called Heavy Shinobi. Yeah, should I consider that a reference to yet another Sega franchise, or should I just consider that a coincidence? But otherwise, yeah. Basically, you just gotta time it right and hit him before he freezes you, because otherwise that really sucks. It's not very cool, to say the least. But once you beat him, it's on to yet another level that should seem very familiar to any of you who played what's probably regarded as one of the best Sonic games ever made, Sonic CD. Yes, the Stardust Speedway. It has all the crazy elements that you remember from that game. You know, going through all these crazy ramps, trying to figure out where the hell you have to go at such a high speed. Those things with the red springs in them that launch you depending on how well you time it, as well as your accuracy. And even some things taken from Marble Garden Zone in Sonic 3, you may have noticed. Now, you do get the time traveling aspect, but unfortunately it's nothing like Sonic CD where it's scattered throughout the entire level. Instead, it's only at the end of Act 1 going into Act 2, where you go into the future. So yeah, it's pretty much forced on the story mode, but still a pretty cool nostalgia trip there. The first boss fight is an enlarged version of those firefly things that look like bulbs, sort of. Yeah, you see them scattered throughout the levels, just like you remember in Sonic CD. And yeah, they do summon small ones as well, but not too hard of a fight otherwise. The next one, on the other hand, be ready. Metal Sonic makes a return. And, well, you don't have to race him. The first part almost is reminiscent of it, but trust me, that's not the hard part. The next part is where you get into this machine thing, trying to throw these weapons and shockwaves at you, and other metal enemies, which you have to basically spin dash and hit with accuracy to make sure it hits him. Do it several times, and then the next part, he gets into the big robotic machine and you have to hit his belly. This part is a pain in the ass, because not only you have to dodge his sharp claws, bouncing explosives, which can cause you to lose all your rings, and if you don't get any of them back, it really sucks more. But you also have to make sure you don't fall behind him and off the platform, because, well, that's instant death right there. Yeah, this took me several tries. It was a pain in the ass. Next one is Hydro City. Yep, right out of Sonic 3, that same one that drove you nuts every time you were underwater, when that countdown thing started. Scrambling looking for a bubble, unless of course, as I mentioned before with the shields, you have the rubber aqua one, which protects you from drowning all the way, unless you lose it of course. Then you have to find an oxygen bubble as many times as you can, especially when that timer starts and then puts you into panic mode. Or unless you go inside of a bubble, which you can control the movement of, but mostly it carries you up until of course it pops. But nope, there's no drowning in one of those things. Not to mention it's one of several new aspects in this level, as well as going on a boat, draining and raising the water levels by pulling the chain. But returning, of course, is the familiar stuff, like going up and down the loops and ramps at high speeds, being blasted out of the water, these rotating spinning things, and these water turbine-like things pushing you under water at high speed, where you grab onto these metal bars, until you let go and they break. The first boss fight should actually seem kind of familiar, it takes an interesting twist on it. Well, of course you have to get through this part without getting crushed by these walls. Damn it! And, well, the interesting part is, the roles are reversed. You get in the machine thing and power it up and try to take him out, instead of Robotnik in the machine. Now that I find pretty cool. Then next is a two-part boss fight. Getting blown through the water, making sure you time your accuracy right so you hit these things instead of the spikes, and enough of them so it blows his ship up. Then the next part is, well, right out of the first part of Hydro City. Yeah, surprising how they twisted this around. Rules apply the same. He has these bomb things circling around him, wait till it stops, hit him as much as you can before he spins you around. And of course, well, make sure you don't drown in the water. And then he's done for.